What if the strongest guardian of your life wasn't human? What if love and loyalty could defy the boundaries of species? In a world where humans and animals are often seen as separate, there are rare moments that prove love knows no limits. This is the story of a connection so deep, so unbreakable, that it challenges everything we understand about friendship, courage, and devotion. It is the story of a young girl and a gorilla, a love that would be tested in the most unimaginable way. Deep in the heart of an African wildlife sanctuary, a girl named Lily found herself drawn to a creature that many feared, a powerful yet gentle gorilla named Coco. Their bond was never meant to be, yet from the moment their eyes met, an understanding passed between them, something unspoken but undeniable. Day after day, Lily returned to the sanctuary, reaching out beyond the barriers that separated them, forging a friendship that few could comprehend. Coco, once abandoned and alone, had found something just as rare as she was, someone who saw her not as a beast, but as a being capable of love. But fate is never kind to love stories like these. In the midst of their growing bond, a threat lurked in the shadows, unseen and unexpected. And on one fateful day, danger would come for Lily. A moment of terror, a test of trust, a choice that would define them both forever. When the world turned against them, would Coco be willing to risk everything? And would Lily ever see her beloved protector the same way again? This is the story of Coco, the gorilla who protected her. Lily had always been different from other children. While most kids spent their days playing with dolls or running through fields, she found herself drawn to the towering figures behind the sanctuary gates. The gorillas fascinated her, not just because of their immense size and strength, but because of their eyes, deep, knowing, almost human. Among them was one who stood apart, Coco. A silverback female, powerful yet quiet, with a gaze that seemed to hold untold stories. From the moment Lily first saw her, she felt something stir inside her, an unexplainable pull, as if they had known each other in another life. At first it was just curiosity, a little girl pressing her small hands against the thick glass, watching the massive creature on the other side. But Coco was watching too. When Lily would tilt her head, Coco would do the same. When Lily smiled, Coco's lips would twitch in something that almost resembled one. And then came the moment that changed everything. One afternoon, Lily sat beside the enclosure with a book in her lap. She wasn't reading out loud, but she traced the words with her fingers, murmuring softly. Coco, usually distant, edged closer. Slowly, carefully, she reached out, placing her giant palm against the glass. Lily's heart pounded. Was it possible that Coco understood? That she wanted to listen? From that day forward, Lily made it a ritual. She would bring books, read to Coco, and in return, the gorilla would sit with her, watching, listening, learning. Days turned into weeks, and their bond deepened. The sanctuary workers noticed it too. Coco, once wary of humans, became more relaxed when Lily was around. She would follow the girl's movements with her eyes, respond to her gestures, even mimic her laughter in the deep, chesty way only gorillas could. One morning, Lily stretched out her hand, not expecting anything. But then, through the bars, Coco reached back. Their fingers brushed for the first time. It was brief, fleeting, but in that moment, something undeniable passed between them. A connection beyond words, beyond species, a silent promise that neither of them knew would one day be tested. The air was thick with the sounds of the jungle, birds calling from the treetops, leaves rustling under the weight of unseen creatures, the distant chatter of other gorillas. It was just another afternoon at the sanctuary, another day where Lily sat beside Coco's enclosure, reading softly, her voice weaving stories into the warm air. But something felt different. The stillness was too heavy. The usual sounds of the forest seemed distant, muted. Coco sensed it first, She lifted her head, nostrils flaring, her dark eyes scanning the trees beyond the sanctuary walls. Lily, too engrossed in her book, didn't notice the way Coco's muscles tensed, the way her fingers curled into the dirt. Then a snap. A sharp, unnatural crack of a twig breaking under heavy footsteps. Coco's head whipped toward the sound, her chest rising and falling faster now. Lily frowned, glancing up. "What is it, girl?" she whispered, following Coco's gaze toward the tree line. Another sound, closer this time. A shiver ran down Lily's spine. The sanctuary had rules. No one entered these grounds without permission. So who was out there? And why did Coco, who had always been so calm, suddenly look afraid? Before Lily could process what was happening, a figure emerged from the shadows. Then another, and another. Men, their faces hidden beneath rough cloth, their hands gripping something glinting in the fading light. Guns. A sickening realization washed over her. Poachers. They weren't here by accident. They were here for the gorillas. And they had no idea a little girl had just become caught in the middle of their hunt. Panic surged through Lily's chest. She knew she had to move, to run, to get back to the safety of the main lodge, but her legs felt frozen. The men were speaking in hushed tones, their eyes scanning the sanctuary. And then one of them saw her. A heartbeat passed between them, one filled with silent tension. And just as the man took a step forward, Coco moved. The gorilla let out a low, rumbling sound, deep and guttural. It was a warning, a promise of what would come if they dared to touch the child she had silently sworn to protect. The men hesitated. Even armed, they knew what a full-grown silverback could do. But Lily wasn't thinking about them anymore. She was thinking about Coco, about what would happen if these men took her away, about what would happen if they decided not to back down. The moment stretched between them like a taut rope, ready to snap. And when it did, everything changed in an instant. Time seemed to slow as the air between them grew heavier. The poachers hesitated, their hands tightening around their weapons, their eyes darting between Lily and the massive silverback, now standing tall before her. Coco's chest heaved, her nostrils flared, and a deep, thunderous growl rumbled from within her. It was a sound that sent a primal shiver through the men's spines, a warning that they were standing on the edge of something dangerous, something unpredictable. Lily's breath came in short, shaky bursts. She wanted to run, to scream for help, but her body refused to move. Her mind spun with fear, but also with something else, an unshakable trust in Coco. The gorilla's broad frame blocked her completely, her massive arms slightly outstretched as if forming a barrier between the girl and the approaching danger. Coco wasn't just reacting to fear. She was making a choice. One of the men took a step forward, testing the waters, his gun still raised but his fingers unsure. That was all it took. In a flash, Coco slammed her hands against the ground, sending a shockwave through the dirt, her roar tearing through the air like a violent storm. The sound was deafening, a force of nature itself. The poachers stumbled back, fear flashing in their eyes. They had expected easy prey, defenseless animals, unaware of their fate. But they hadn't counted on this. They hadn't counted on a gorilla willing to fight for something beyond instinct, something deeper, something like love. Lily felt the vibration of Coco's roar shake through her own body, but she wasn't afraid. Not of Coco, never of Coco. Instead, she watched in awe as her protector stood unyielding, daring the men to come closer. But they didn't. The leader of the group barked something to the others, a hurried command. One by one, they backed away, disappearing into the trees as quickly as they had come. The sanctuary had been protected. For now. The silence that followed was almost surreal. Lily realized she had been gripping the fabric of her dress so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. Her heart pounded against her ribs. But she forced herself to take a breath. Slowly, she turned to Coco, who was still standing guard, her breathing heavy, her muscles tense. And then, as if feeling Lily's gaze, Coco turned her head, meeting the girl's eyes. There was no need for words. In that single, silent moment, Lily understood. Coco would have done anything to keep her safe. A lump formed in Lily's throat as she reached out, her small fingers trembling. Coco, calming now, lowered herself back down, her powerful arms resting in the dirt. And then, with a gentleness that no one would have expected from a creature so strong, she lifted her hand, pressing it against Lily's. A bond had been forged in fear, but strengthened by something far greater: love, trust, devotion. Lily swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you, Coco." The sanctuary was never the same after that day. Word spread quickly among the staff about what had happened, about the poachers, the danger, and the moment when Coco had stood between Lily and the unknown. The workers spoke in hushed tones, some in awe, others in disbelief. Could a gorilla truly understand what she had done? Could she have known that she wasn't just protecting another member of her species, but a human, a child? For Lily, there was no question. Coco had saved her, not by accident, not by instinct alone, but by choice. Every time she replayed the moment in her mind, the same feeling settled in her chest, a warmth, a certainty. Coco had acted not as a wild animal, but as a friend, as family. In the days that followed, Lily spent every spare moment by Coco's side. The fear from that afternoon had faded, but something new had taken its place. A deeper understanding of the bond they shared. She would sit beside the enclosure, speaking softly, reading as she always had. But there was something different in the way Coco watched her now. A quiet protectiveness, a silent promise that no matter what, she would always be there. But even as their bond grew stronger, an unsettling reality loomed over them. The poachers had been scared off that day, but would they return? The sanctuary took immediate action, reinforcing security, tightening patrols, and working with local authorities to ensure the safety of the gorillas. But Lily knew that in the wild, not every animal was as lucky as Coco. Some had no sanctuary to protect them. Some had no one to stand up for them. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, casting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold, Lily made a quiet decision. She would dedicate her life to protecting gorillas, just as Coco had protected her. She didn't know exactly how or where to start, but she knew that she owed it to her friend, to the creature who had risked everything for her, to make sure others like Coco were never left defenseless. As she stood to leave, she turned back one last time, watching as Coco settled into the grass, her massive form silhouetted against the fading light. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, carrying with it the sounds of the jungle, the place where Coco belonged, a place that, thanks to her, Lily had come to love more than she ever thought possible. With a small smile, she pressed her hand to the enclosure one last time before whispering, "I'll protect you too, Coco, just like you did for me." Years passed, but the memory of that day never faded. It became a story whispered through the sanctuary, a tale of a gorilla who had defied all expectations, of a girl whose life had been forever changed. But for Lily, it was never just a story. It was a moment that had shaped her purpose. As she grew older, her fascination with gorillas turned into something more, a mission. She studied their behaviors, learned about their struggles in the wild, and dedicated herself to protecting them. What had once been a childhood friendship had now become the foundation of her life's work. She spent her days in the sanctuary, working alongside conservationists, learning the delicate balance between human protection and wild freedom. Every time she looked into the eyes of a new rescued gorilla, she saw Coco. She saw the same intelligence, the same unspoken depth of emotion, the same quiet plea for understanding. And she knew that just as Coco had once stood for her, she now had to stand for them. But time, as always, is relentless. Coco was growing older. The once powerful silverback, who had roared in defiance at the poachers, now moved a little slower. Her deep brown eyes, still filled with the same warmth, had softened with age. Lily spent as much time with her as she could, reading to her just as she had when she was a child, their bond unchanged by the years. And when the day finally came, when Coco closed her eyes for the last time beneath the golden glow of the afternoon sun, Lily sat by her side, her hand resting gently on the same powerful fingers that had once shielded her from harm. There were no words, no need for them. Just love. Just gratitude. But Coco's story did not end there. In every gorilla Lily helped rescue, in every law she fought to change, in every child she taught about the beauty and intelligence of these creatures, Coco lived on. Her legacy was not just in the past, but in the future that Lily was shaping. One where gorillas were not seen as beasts to be feared, but as beings to be protected and understood. Standing at the edge of the sanctuary one evening, Lily watched as a young gorilla played in the trees, swinging freely, safe in the world that she and so many others had fought to protect. A gentle breeze carried through the jungle, rustling the leaves, whispering memories of the past. Lily smiled, pressing a hand against her chest, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, a rhythm that once, long ago, had matched the deep protective thrum of Coco's own. And in that moment, she knew, love never truly fades. It simply takes new forms, finds new ways to live on. Coco had saved her once, and now, through her, Coco would protect them all.